Trinity senators have a reputation for reflecting the university's values of equality. Which area or areas of equality will you focus on to improve access to education for all?
Good evening, everybody. I'm here in Trinity and I'm no stranger to the place. I got my PhD here in psychology and I worked as the director of the very first programme at a doctoral level for clinical psychology for many years. But I'm back now in a different capacity. Equality for me has always been at the core of what I do. I was the daughter of a bus driver and a mother who had to leave school in her early teens to care for her own ailing mother. So equality for me has a personal resonance. And I know as well that equality is far from just an economic, a socio-economic phenomenon. My own mother was determined. She didn't know how she was going to do it, but she was determined that myself and my brother would get chances that we never got. And there are many, many families in disadvantaged areas who feel the same. I know when I worked in the RAPID programme, I visited families in the most deprived areas of this city and in other cities. And I was always touched by what those mothers and sometimes fathers, when I met them, said, is that they said, sure, I'd love my children to go to university, but what chance do we have? They didn't know the routes into university, and they were often at schools that had no tradition. And so there is many, many aspects to disadvantage, not least that psychological exclusion from privilege.
Thank you, Maureen. Now I'm going to move on to the second question. If you are elected to Seanad Éireann, how will you use your position as Senator to affect policy and progress at a national level? Maureen.
I too actually supported and on public record for opposing the then Taoiseach Enda Kenny's proposal to abolish the upper chamber. And I think we don't just need voices from both sides. We need voices from many, many perspectives. And there is any single issue that we debate of any substance has a psychological dimension to it. It starts with the person. And you cannot expect somebody or from a family that is already struggling to keep body and soul together, to have, without sometimes, and people with no homes who have no bed to sleep on. You can't expect people like that to start turning their attention to climate change and issues and wars and world peace. You can only do that when you have your basic psychological and physical needs met. Only 5% of all the money that we spent on health, a mere 5%, is spent on mental health. And yet it is a component of everything that we do. And it is going to be my absolute priority in the Senate to promote the proper funding of the mental health services to meet not just the old demand that was already unmet, but the absolutely unprecedented pressure on the psychological and psychiatric services now as a result of the two years of COVID that we've endured.
Thank you, Maureen. And now we're on to the third and final question. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Irish government has responded with sanctions and humanitarian action. Do you think the government should be doing more? And if so, what, as a senator, would you suggest they do? Maureen.
Well, I think the government, by and large, has done pretty well so far. They were first out of the blocks to condemn the invasion, and they have been strong in their support for Ukraine. And I say that as somebody who has zero political affiliation with any party, but credit where credit is due. But I think now they're not just going to face the challenge of getting homes for the Ukrainian families. If they're going to stay here, they can't live in someone's front room for the next couple of months. But we already have a housing crisis here, so they're going to have a job on their hands. They're also going to have to mobilise a whole lot of mental health professionals to deal with the post-traumatic stress that a lot of these families are going to suffer from, not least children who have seen and heard things that no child should ever have seen. And I think they need to keep up the pressure on our EU colleagues and partners to deepen and widen the sanctions on Russia until they really bite. And when they go on their excursions around the world on St. Patrick's Day to offer people bowls of shamrock, I think they should plant a Ukrainian flag right in the middle of every bouquet of shamrock.
Thanks. Well, we've put all three questions to you, but before we finish, each one of you will now have 1 minute to make a general pitch for yourselves. Tell us, why should anyone vote for you?
Well, I think anything that I do in life, I bring great energy to it and a certain amount of determination. I think I'm a good judge of what's possible in situations and when it's right to push for a lot more. I think I'm very good, and I have a track record in the various public bodies that I've chaired. I think I'm very good at getting people to collaborate. In my work with the National Economic and Social Forum, I managed to bring together, despite all the Cassandras, the representatives of different political parties, the employers, the trade unions, and the community and voluntary sector together, and we managed to do the work without anyone walking out in high dudgeon. But I'm a great believer in Edmund Burke, and he said that every generation inherits their society only for a loan, and the job is to pass it on undamaged and hopefully in better shape to the next generation. That's why I'm going up for the Seanad.